this is Moshe coming to you from Israel and Galilee, where I live, and it's still making the picture too big, but we'll live with it for today. I'm still setting these things up, and I'm trying to cover all the news and everything, and it's a lot of work. Okay, and there's a massive amount of news today. Massive. All right. Well, since we're a Bible-believing site, let's start with the praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right. Now, while people are coming in, I'm going to jump into the chat and make sure everything's good and make sure we got picture and sound and all the stuff we need to do. People are coming in, and I'm waiting to see if we got picture and sound. Make sure everything's good. We got everything we need. And let me do a little bit of housekeeping here in the chat. This will take a minute or something. Not long. Not long. Figured out how to get the bird to go to sleep last night, so I had a good night's sleep. Almost there. Almost there. Should be done with the network for a second. So we killed like 4 people that were in Lebanon working for Hamas. They were very high ranking, very, 2 of them were very high ranking. And they were involved with the October 7th massacre for sure. So they're dead. They were in a section of Lebanon that's extremely well defended. Well, as far as Hezbollah can well defend anything. And our jets just came in and killed them. So that rattled Hezbollah, okay? Nasrallah had a speech scheduled, and he canceled it, and then he reinstated it. So he did the speech, and it was boring nothing. Okay? It didn't mean anything. Then after that, by several hours, we did another assassination type event up in Lebanon and got some Hezbollah officials, not very high ranking though, but they were up there, but not the top dogs. So I imagine Nasrallah is not happy and he's scared. The Israelis were flying planes over Beirut constantly, and they were breaking the sound barrier. And then they started conducting mock attacks on Beirut. And in addition to that, we did a lot of, let's call them regular attacks on Hezbollah positions in South Lebanon. So Hezbollah is losing face. Okay? They're being shown to be weak. They're also being shown that. And then I start doing the broadcast and they start getting cut out. I wonder why. But it seems to just be the Wi-Fi, not the internet. So, who knows? So Nasrallah has to deal with the threat that Israel made to him, and Lebanon and Hezbollah, that we would take out their electrical grid for the country. Now, that's just not a punishment move on the civilians. It's a massive wartime strategy because it'll hurt them in so many ways. Communications, radar. A lot of these missiles are launched electrically. Television will go out, internet will go out eventually, and many things will break down in Lebanon. Commerce will fall apart, no credit cards, ATM machines won't work, banks won't work, computers won't work. And in the middle of all this chaos, Lebanon would have to be fighting a war, Hezbollah too, against us. And our planes would be bombing the smithereens out of them, purpose being taking them to the Dark Ages. So, what the heck does Nasrallah do now? Well, Nasrallah has probably been on the phone 4 or 5 times with Iran, trying to figure out what the heck they wanted. And I'm not sure what Iran wants at this time. One consideration is they would come to the realization that Israel is completely prepared at this point in time for a large attack from Hezbollah, which would mean Hezbollah won't be very successful. So they usually mourn these people for 2 days. So it could be several days till they proceed with a countermeasure. Now, if it was just the Hamas guys, I would say, well, they may not do a big war. But because we're starting to target their people, they might. A big war would be hundreds of thousands of rockets going into Israel population centers, which is a war crime, but the UN doesn't mind. Getting rid of Israel is fine with them. What will Hezbollah do is a tense situation here in Israel. And what will America do if Hezbollah goes on a full-out attack? They said they would stop extra fronts from opening other than in Gaza. The Houthis essentially opened an extra front. They started by shooting missiles into Levi, which were intercepted, almost all of them. Next, they decided to attack shipping. And they did a good job on that. Shipping in the Red Sea basically came to practically a standstill. Russia is still able to run ships through the Red Sea, which shows you that Russia's tied to the Houthis. Now, I'm sure China could run ships through the Red Sea as well. I don't know who else, probably many other countries. Saudi Arabia, I'm not so sure if they can go through the Red Sea or not. Their situation with the Houthis is basically the Houthis dictate to them and Saudis listen or they get attacked. The Saudis try to be nice to America, but understandably, they don't rely on America. They're not real big on having, relationships with Israel. They would probably like to get weapons from Israel, but Iron Dome, David's sling, and things like that, but Israel's not selling those things now. They're keeping them for themselves. So it's not likely that they're going to get anything useful from Israel, so they don't really need Israel for weapons. And they're scared that the Houthis will attack all their oil fields and refineries, which they've done in the past. They hit their biggest refinery, Aramco, on 2 separate occasions in the last year or so. And Saudi rapidly rebuilt it without a whole lot of difficulty. Do I think America would help Israel if the Hezbollah tried a large attack on Israel? Well, the reasons in favor of that is they said they would do it. The reasons against it is they're setting a snare for Israel. They're going to, I think, try to leave Israel without their help and let all the fronts close in on Israel, which is when God will move in. And that is the Zechariah 12 war. But on the other hand, America's trying to entrench the military inside the Middle East, so they might actually do something. They may get into the fight. It'd have to be a very rapid fight. It wouldn't be a ground invasion. It would be planes, which they could deploy fairly immediately from bases in the Middle East and from the Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carriers. So that's not a big problem for them. They have bombers in the area that they could deploy. And they could help if they want to, and they might. They might. But I think Netanyahu went and provoked this thing all on his own. Now, why? Biden was telling Netanyahu, wind the war down. Just do targeted strikes, protect the civilians, keep the humanitarian aid coming in. Now, this is the stupidest thing you can imagine, because the humanitarian aid is not going to the citizens. It's daily, repeatedly, without interruption, being stolen by Hamas for their own use. So when Biden tells us, keep the humanitarian aid going, it's bringing medical, food, water to Hamas, which they then turn around and sell to the populace through the stores, which I'm sure are owned by Hamas-friendly people or operatives themselves. So the situation is a real mess, and Biden's a real mess in his own right. So 2 days ago, the Supreme Court, or 3 days, I lost count, 2 or 3 days ago, Supreme Court canceled the law Netanyahu had passed, stopping them from being able to use the reasonableness clause, which means they could stop a government action, not a law, an action, based on it not being reasonable. Now, this is not written in what we call our basic laws, which is similar to a constitution, but Israel has no constitution. Don't let people tell you that they don't. Okay? And they said that the Knesset law barring them from using the reasonableness is struck down. It's dead. Okay, so far as I know, it's been accepted. The next thing they did, which I think was yesterday, Netanyahu had a law passed that the prime minister, meaning him, could not be removed from office without a 75% vote in the Knesset, and it could only be for health reasons. Like, he's crippled, a stroke, he can't talk, or whatever, right? Now, that's absurd, because it gives Netanyahu the immunity of a king to murder people, rape people. He could sell drugs, he could take graft, he could do whatever he wants, and you can't remove him. So the Supreme Court didn't strike that down per se. What they did instead was extremely clever. Leave it to the lawyers, huh? They said that the law will not go into effect until October 27th, 2026, when Netanyahu's term expires. Because, why did they do that? Well, they don't want Netanyahu having any such immunity. Why? They intend to take him out. He made an agreement with the High Court when he ran for office that he got elected into, that he would not interfere with the judicial system, because it would be a conflict of interest, because he has a vested interest in changing the judicial system to keep himself out of jail on his 3 criminal cases where the trial's already begun. Okay? So now the door is open for the Supreme Court to go in and say, it's not reasonable to keep you in office because you violated the agreement with us. Now, are they going to do that? Likely, but I can't say for sure. What it looks like to me at this point is they fired a warning shot across the bow of Netanyahu. They're basically telling him, we know what kind of crap you're pulling, and knock it off, and work in the best interest of Israel, or we're going to yank you out of office. Now, we're already picking up some dissent from members of the Knesset about what the Supreme Court did, that they're usurping their authority. Now, I've told you months before the war started, many months, that Netanyahu would do anything to keep himself out of jail. It got dangerous for Israel when he was not able to get the rest of his judicial reform passed. The rest of his judicial reform would have had a law passed that said specifically the prime minister has immunity from anything he does in office, which would mean all his criminal cases are null and void, they're moot. And he can continue to reign as King Bibi, as they started calling him, or Caesar Bibius, they also called him that. So the Supreme Court was moving on Netanyahu, but the war got them to slow down. But now the rocket attacks from Gaza are very intermittent, and I assume they got scared because they're not the village idiots, the High Court, and they realize what Netanyahu's doing. So it's a big step to forcibly remove Netanyahu from office during the war. A lot of people in Israel are under the false belief that that's a bad thing to do. Well, it's a worse thing to do to leave a moron like that there that'll sink the country to save his own neck. Okay? That's worse. The Israeli people don't get that. You can't generally talk to them. You don't know nothing, is what you get back from them. And, you weren't born here. Your parents weren't in the army. You weren't in the army. You don't know, yeah, right. And they don't know nothing about the Bible, and that's the real truth. So they're pretty in the dark about this, okay? Just like the people in America don't believe Biden, with his open borders, is selling out America. How could you not believe that? I mean, I'm hearing it on Fox and CNN and big television stations are either insinuating it's strongly or coming out and saying he's destroying America. They're not talking about the snare or anything like that, but they're saying he's destroying America. So, and then Netanyahu's destroying Israel with these wars. The military keeps coming out with statements that we got many more months to go. Believe me, biblically, we don't. With Hamas and Gaza. On one hand, you read the government of Israel says we're not contacted any foreign countries about, voluntary removal of Gazans to these countries, like the Congo, for instance, has come up. And then you hear reports that the Congo came up and Israel is talking to them. So there's a lot of fake news running around, or people are posting news and don't know the truth. And the Americans and everybody else is opposed to that. Why help Israel? Why let Israel get rid of this horrific threat on their border? It's in their best interest, think Espots, Power of the Air, the leaders, to have Hamas stay in Gaza so they could rebuild and kill again another day. And that would be the only reason to keep them there. Now, the place is a wreck. Streets are gone, sewers are gone, water lines are gone, cell phones and internet are in and out. Stores are gone, malls are gone, schools are gone, hospitals are gone, mosques are gone, and probably 85% of the homes are either destroyed or damaged. And the ones that stayed in North Gaza were nice enough to go around and loot a lot of the houses. So if the people had a house that wasn't destroyed or an apartment, they're going to come home and their house is stripped bare. The economy is in the dumps. See, Gaza doesn't make anything. They don't export goods. They don't make furniture or clothing or electronics or tires. They don't do anything. All they make is war. And they have merchants there that sell things that are the bare necessities for the people that live there. They need to have a car, petrol for the car, oil, car repair shops, parts, food, it's grocery stores and things like that, people to grow the food, clothing, furniture, electronics, and stuff like that. So the S-spots, nice, that have favor with Hamas, get the licenses to open up these stores, I assume, and sell stuff to the people. So they rely on the UN to come in and provide free medical, charitable hospitals to provide free medical. They also will come in, different charities, and now we got it back. Okay. I don't believe in coincidence. I think somebody at the company's knocking me off the air. Now we got it back. Okay. Spiritual warfare. I don't believe in coincidence. I think I don't know what happened. All the lights were on the Wi-Fi, and I couldn't make it pull a web page, so I guess it's back. Okay. So let me just pick up where we were. So the Supreme Court has removed all the barriers to taking Netanyahu out of office because he did judicial reform, which they struck down, which he gave them a commitment he wouldn't do. So they could use the reasonableness clause and say they're taking him out because he violated what he said he wouldn't do, and he's probably going to do it again. Now, this could be that they totally intend to take him out, or it could be because there's wars going on, they want to warn him to quit expanding wars to stay in office. We're not idiots. And we don't want to get killed with bombs and missiles and rockets. So if you don't stop, we're going to take you out. Now, they may have made a decision to take him out anyway, and it's just going to happen. So right while they were doing this, he expands the war by assassinating the Hamas officials in Lebanon, defying Nasrallah, who threatened that if you assassinate anybody from Iran or the Houthis or, any of these radical terrorist groups on our territory, there's going to be a big price to pay. So Nasrallah has to decide if he's going to belly up to the bar and pay the price, or if he's going to ignore it. Ignore it would be just a token retaliation. The problem with that is that a token retaliation would have to be more significant than the the Monday daily attacks on the Lebanese border with Israel. So you have to attack one of the major cities in Israel with many, many rockets and try to cause as much death and destruction as you can. This opens the door for Netanyahu to say these people are crazy, they want to wipe Israel off the map, and 75 or 100 Israeli warplanes start bombing Beirut and many terrorist targets, creating sheer chaos in Lebanon, and then Hezbollah decides to push through with it. Then the tanks are stacked up on the Lebanese border. They seem to be like, I don't know, 10, 20 feet apart, and they've got their artillery pointed, and somebody could just, give them the flag, and they just roll into Lebanon. Hezbollah has no fleet of tanks to speak of. And they just come into Lebanon, guns blazing, artillery shooting, and just push up to the Livni River, that 15-mile area that the UN said Hezbollah should not be in. So they have an alibi. They asked the UN to get them out of there, and the UN failed. Hezbollah has been firing rockets and missiles at one point 20, 25 meters away from the UN troops who were hiding. UN troops frequently come from third world countries, and they get paid a UN salary which could be double what they get in their home country or triple, and they get free housing and stuff like that. So they like being a UN troop, but they're not going to go to war. These are second, third world countries. They don't give a hoot. They just want a paycheck. They're not going to get into a fight with serious fighters in limited numbers, extremely limited numbers. It's the token presence. Hezbollah would kill them. So they, call back to the UN and say, hey, we can't stop them. They're launching missiles right next to us, and the UN does nothing. That's the reality of what goes on based on the facts. So the UN will always turn against Israel. So Israel could roll in with the tanks this week. I mean, before they go in, there would be an amazing amount of artillery, which could reach all the way through the 15-mile zone. So you're looking at many hundreds of artillery shells targeting strategic points in Lebanon that Gaza has. They're just not going to carpet attack it. They're going to hit specific points, and they already have their target packages ready to go. And then they're also going to have the planes bomb, and they're probably going to have mobile artillery shooting, and they might have towed artillery shooting, and they might use surface-to-surface missiles. Whatever radar Hezbollah and Lebanon have will be taken out fairly immediately and definitively. Airports will be bombed, so Iran or somebody's not going to be able to fly in with troops. That's fairly mandatory to blow the airports up. And they're not going to just blow holes in the runway, which are good for 24 to 48 hours. They're going to blow out the radar and the control towers and the whole infrastructure of the airport, so you got weeks of reconstruction. The electric grid will go out, and any boats that Hezbollah has will be attacked. Our Navy will be there shooting missiles and rockets at them from the ocean, and making sure they don't try to do any kind of boat launches to attack Israel by coming in on the shore. There's no Air Force they have to worry about, or no armor division to worry about, or any of that stuff, Their technology is frequently a missile launcher put on the bed of a pickup truck, or a 50 caliber machine gun on the bed of a pickup truck and stuff like that. Portable shoulder-fired rockets that can hit a tank. I don't know if our Macabre tanks have up to 5, I think they're on the 5th generation. So if they get generation 1, 2, and 3, they may be able to significantly damage the tank. But the latter generations, I don't believe, have any problem with the anti-tank missiles. Now it can create damage to the tank, but the guys are going to make it, they may get bounced around and have to go for medical treatment, but getting killed is generally, I don't think, going to happen. They have these capabilities in Gaza as well, and the tanks are doing fine down there. So this, if he attacks like, Haifa, Tel Aviv, it would be his destruction. Nasrallah. He wouldn't have Hezbollah anymore. It wouldn't be recognizable. Now, what happened October 7th, Israel was, we've covered why, but they were ill prepared. What would happen today is the planes are ready, the tanks are right there waiting, the artillery's there, the missiles, everything. They got the target packages, they just go in. But it would be preceded by perhaps 2 or 3 days of bombing and attacking. They would want to clear out as much Hezbollah infrastructure, military structure, launching sites, barracks where they sleep and live, all this stuff would be cleared out first. Basically, the tanks would be going in for cleanup and to occupy. And our tunnel demolition forces would be there when the fighting slowed some and run around finding tunnels, if there are any to find, and, blowing them up. Hezbollah would have many martyrs, as they like to call their dead. Everybody that gets killed up there by Israel is a martyr, So it would be a rather devastating destruction. Now people are going to say, oh, they're 2-3 times stronger than Hamas. I don't think so. They got more personnel than Hamas, but they got more real estate to cover. Hamas had total control of Gaza. They've got the Lebanese government at odds with them. The Lebanese government doesn't want to see the country get decimated. Hamas is the government of Gaza. So there's a division and a conflict. So their house is divided and it will not stand. That's one problem they have. Lebanon might turn against Hezbollah for favored treatment from Israel. A lot of Hezbollah will be probably, it depends. If we just go in 15 miles and quit, they're going to recede back up into the north. And as soon as we leave, they'll come back. Now, the 15 miles isn't going to stop them from using the more advanced missiles. How many of those they have, we don't know. But remember, the amount of the missiles is not as important as the amount of the missile launchers. And these missile launchers are not little set up, triangular shaped with a ramp. These things are sophisticated, and they're not going to go on a pickup truck pretty much. They might, some of the less advanced ones. The big ones There's one launcher on a substantial truck, like a 24, 26-foot truck, that, has a generator for power, has radar and all the stuff like that. And, those things are pretty large and they're not going to be hard to find. You're not going to get in a tunnel with those. They're not going to be able to do infiltrations into Israel with so many troops on the border. It's absurd. These tunnels into Israel are usually measured in yards or meters, not miles, They might have tunnel that goes a quarter of a mile into Israel or something like that, probably less, a few hundred yards. They could try flying in on paragliders. I would say 95% of them would be cut down from machine gun fire before they landed in Israel, and then the few that landed would be killed or apprehended by the ground forces. And the chance, there might be one or two that slips through and he'll just get killed, And the other problem they have with that is these civilians at the border, 95% of them are evacuated. The ones that are still there, rest assured, are armed. So the guy dumps his glider and walks around with his AK-47 and goes to a kibbutz or a moshav or a community, and some Israeli civilians sitting there at the window just takes his rifle and pops him in the street. Or he starts coming to houses and somebody just starts shooting their pistol through the door, Or out a window, or they open the door slightly and start dumping rounds at him. It's not gonna. What if they start to try to ride motorcycles in from Lebanon? Well, they don't call them donor cycles for nothing. They'll never make it. The tanks and the mobile artillery in Israel generally have two machine guns. One is operated from inside the tank, so the guys are not exposed, and the other one, the guy gets up there, in the turret, so he has some exposure. They'd be using two machine guns from every tank, and they have quite a bit of ammo in the tank. They also have little small mortars they could shoot. There's all kinds of weapons. The tanks have all different setups, Then we have a lot of Humvees that have usually a 30 cal or a 50 cal mounted on it with a lot of ammo. And they'd be spraying. Artillery being shot at them. Apache attack helicopters would be hunting them. It's, one or two could get through maybe, or, but his lifespan would be not in hours, it'd be in minutes or half minutes, not going to make it. If they give up their motorcycle, and I understand they have pretty good mufflers on them, so you don't hear them. If they give up their motorcycle, and then they're just some terrorists running around on foot that'll be eliminated. If they keep their motorcycle, well, then, it's going to be, the motorcycle's not going to sound like, it's going to be heard. It might not be heard from 2 or 3 blocks away. It might only be heard from a half a block or a block away, but you're going to hear it. And I don't think I don't know what'll happen, but Nasrallah is not going to announce, Saturday we're going to attack Israel vehemently. It's not that dumb. I don't think he knows what he wants to do yet. He saw the price that Hamas paid. But while he's probably at a force of 75,000, okay? Nobody knows exactly, but that's my estimate. That's counting his reserves, which are not crack troops, and his regulars. He's got about 50,000 regulars and maybe 25,000 reserves. That's it. Hamas and PIJ had 50,000. It's not that massive of a difference. The 15-mile buffer zone is in compliance with the UN, so the nations are going to have trouble going nuts against Israel for that, especially since Israel put them on notice and they did nothing about it. And they've got documentation of them firing missiles right near the UNIFIL, I don't know, 80, 90 feet away, or less, 70 feet. And the soldiers doing nothing. So the UN will have an embarrassing time with that, especially if America speaks out for Israel. The thing is, Nasrallah, if he survives, will probably be out of a job. Because Hezbollah will prove to be ineffective after some days of attack, like Hamas. Now, I don't believe that Hezbollah has anything like the tunnel network that Hamas had. They got tunnels, they got underground bunkers, but nothing like that. Why? First of all, you could see they don't have it by their hesitancy to go all out against Israel. The actions don't lie. If they had such a network of tunnels, they'd probably go all out against Israel. The other problem is the government of Lebanon is not entirely controlled by Hezbollah, and the government wouldn't want to have tunnels all over the place under hospitals and schools and mosques. The other problem is, in Gaza, everybody's a Muslim, basically. In Lebanon, no. There's a lot of Catholics up there and Christians. They don't have, they're not unified in Mohammedanism up there. It's different. So they got, maybe they're bigger and stronger than Hamas, but they don't have the control. They got a lack of problem. They got, division is what they got. So they have a lot of handicaps. A lot that are significant. So what do? At this point, it seems that Netanyahu is going to thrust us into war one way or another. The only way they're going to get out of a war is not to do anything to retaliate for what we did, which is going to encourage Netanyahu to just do more targeted assassinations. Eventually, Nasrallah will decide that he may as well attack because Israel's not stopping. So he gets himself dug in some bunkers, his key people in bunkers, and he pleads with Iran to send 25 or 50,000 soldiers over, which they'll never do. And he starts his war. But Israel may have already locked in, and they're not going to let him go because he keeps shooting at the border, so they're just going to keep pushing it. Now, his advanced rockets will be able to go, let's say, up to 40 miles or 60 miles. So the 15-mile border isn't going to stop that. What it will stop is his cheap, easy, junky rockets that are highly portable. That they got ranges of less than, they go 8 to 12 miles typically. So they're going to be gone. So now he has to use his good stockpile of weapons. And I don't think he has that many launchers. He might have a bunch of these missiles, but you need the launchers. Every time he uses a launcher, we're fairly immediately going to get a GPS location on it, and then artillery and missiles or whatever start landing on that location. So when you're talking a 24, 26-foot truck with a missile launcher on it, it needs to travel on a road, maybe a gravel road or a dirt road, but it needs a road. It's not going to be able to go through the bramble bushes. So, and it's big. So it launches a missile and then they fire up the engine and decide they want to get away. All the planes and the helicopters have to do and the drones is look for the road and blow it up on the road. To stop its egress, put some artillery or bombs in the road and make a nice big, 6-foot deep hole that's 25 feet across, and they're not going to be able to use that road, and because the truck can't get through that. So then they got to try to find another route, which gives the planes and the drones a lot of time to find where they are, and then in comes bombs and artillery, and then the missile launch is gone. So they'll try to pick off the missile launches as much as they can. Hezbollah doesn't have much to shoot at our tanks. They have some shoulder-fired anti-tank weapons and AK-47s and, squad machine guns and stuff. And all those guns are going to bounce off the tanks. Nothing's going to happen to the tanks, and people have already evacuated South Lebanon. So while it's going to be bad to have another war, it's not going to be an obliteration. Now, remember, we're in the year of recompenses, and look what happened to Hamas for what they did, which was with the cooperation of Biden and Netanyahu, by my reckoning. And many other people in Israel are very suspicious of this too. So this is not working that way. And it's going to be a fairly immediate, brutal response. Netanyahu is trying to make himself some sort of a hero. Now, he might switch horses and try to see if he could get Israel decimated so there is no more court system, or maybe if he gets enough wars psyched up, the courts will be under suspension. Like if a lot of missiles and rockets continually come in from Netanyahu, like he's from Lebanon, he softens the response. And they'll have to shut the government, the public places will shut, things like that will be closed. So he's a real piece of garbage. He's the curse of Israel, as I refer to him, in my opinion. Let me look at the chat and see. Everything seems to be running pretty good. Yeah. All right. So let me get into my notes here and make sure I covered everything on this, and then we'll switch to Bible prophecy. Biden might think it's a good idea to have Netanyahu kicked out of office, but I don't think he's going to go that far. I think he might like Netanyahu in office, and he might then, for that reason, come in and help with Lebanon and quickly get the Lebanon thing shut down. But Netanyahu could still get removed. If Netanyahu decides to strike the Supreme Court down, which is probably a 25% chance, 20% chance, to stay in office, then what he could do is close the Supreme Court, just lock the building up so they can't meet. Then they're not going to pass any decisions to throw him out. That would be very eyebrow raising, let's say, in Israel. He could declare them usurping authority and wanting to undermine the Knesset and run the country themselves, undermine the executive branch and the legislative branch, and therefore they need to be removed out of office and sign some edict that says they're no longer justices. And, you know, there's a number of things he could try. Ben-Gvir and Smotrich would go along with him because they don't like the Supreme Court. The rabbis, the ultra-Orthodox Shahs and United Torah Judaism would probably go along with him. They might strike down the money grant that Netanyahu's administration gave to the Shahs and United Torah Judaism, which is excessive. They may knock that down. Whatever money they got already, they'll probably keep, but any future money will be canceled. So they're on the warpath for him. He didn't fool them. They know what he's up to. And they don't like it. And they took very rapid action. Over a period of 3 days, they struck down 2 laws. Netanyahu's not going to so easily leave the prime minister's office. He may only leave at the point of a gun or feet first. Now, the military, by and large, will be confused if this gets really bad, like civil war. They'll be very confused and not know what to do, and they'll be divided. The police, not so much. They'll pretty much side with the government. But Ben-Gvir is the head of the police and the Shin Bet. And I don't know, he's not gonna, he hates the Supreme Court, and he might let Netanyahu run amok. Well, this could be the Lord showing the people of Israel that this democracy is a joke, and all democracies are a joke, and getting them ready for for Isaiah, where it says he's going to run Israel with the judges like he did at the first, which was Moses and Aaron. Now they were judges and also prophets, like the 2 witnesses would be the judges and prophets also. A judge is normally a prophet. So they may have to shut this down. Biden could put troops in Israel if this thing gets out of hand, which it could, where the country's really divided, and there's all kinds of strikes and people attacking government offices and burning them, and attacking the Supreme Court, attacking the Netanyahu part of the government and all this stuff, different divisions. The United States could say, well, we're going to send troops in and, you know, send 10 or 20,000 troops to go into Jerusalem and quiet it down. That would give them an opportunity to do a lot of bad things to Israel. Could it be part of the snare Netanyahu has? It could be. Because the Americans will keep him out of jail. It could be part of the snare. An excuse, you know, all he has to do is lock up the Supreme Court, put him under house arrest, close the court building, padlock it in. you're going to have turmoil, and then America sends in a bunch of troops to quiet down Jerusalem and let the existing government, Netanyahu government, get back to work. Thus, they would be supporting the locking down of the Supreme Court, or the locking them up. And the Israeli people could just say, we had enough of America, and then you got a problem over there. But the two witnesses, it appear, are going to shut down the bad shepherds of Ezekiel 39 and the fat cattle, the rich despots. They're going to get it, and I think pretty soon. The Biden putting troops in Israel could very well happen. They could put troops in Israel to help with Lebanon. And when the time comes, divert them to Jerusalem to restore the peace and calm in Israel. This could happen. So this is probably as serious as the Lebanese war, but we don't know what's going to happen now. But all roads lead to this democracy is getting ready to disappear. God's had it with it, and he's had it with Netanyahu. Okay, so let me see if we have any questions in the chat, and then I want to cover the dry bones in Ezekiel 37 with more depth and detail than we have in the past. I'm not reversing my position on that. I'm just going to elaborate, on this a lot more. I got some insights from the Lord that I think are pretty good. Israel also gets a lot of cyber attacks, and that could be what my problem is. But why do they happen so frequently when I'm on the air doing a live stream? See what I'm saying? I'm not a coincidence kind of guy. All right, let's go to Ezekiel 37, the dry bones. Okay, so we're going to try to find out, when does this happen? And look at the details in this carefully, okay? The hand of Jehovah was upon me, and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord, and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones. Now, when the rich man died, and he had the beggar outside his gate eating the crumbs that came off his table, the beggar wound up in Abraham's bosom, and the rich man wound up in the bad place, Sheol, where it's hot and there's no water. He looked over and he saw the beggar, I think his name was Lazarus, in Abraham's bosom, which was a form of paradise. And he started engaging Abraham in conversation. And Abraham he was saying, well, send him over here that he could put the tip of his finger in water and drop it on my tongue because it's, dry here and all that, right? Well, Abraham said he can't go there and you can't go here because there's a great chasm in between us. So let's read this again. The hand of the Lord was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of Jehovah and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones. Well, a valley and a chasm are pretty much the same thing, wouldn't you think? And caused me to pass by them round about, and behold, there were very many in the open valley, sounding like a chasm to me, and lo, they were very dry. What did the guy say when he asked for the beggar to come over and put his tip of his finger in water and put the water on his tongue? He said, it's very dry. Same place. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord God, Adonai Jehovah is what it says, thou knowest. Again he said unto me, prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Jehovah. Thus saith Adonai Jehovah unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live. Now the word for breath is ruach, which could also mean wind or spirit. Bear that in mind. And I will lay sinews upon you. I think sinews is cartilage. And will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live, and you shall know that I am Jehovah. So he's putting cartilage and skin and flesh on these dry bones, right? Isn't that interesting, right? So is that making them like the angels? With cartilage, flesh, and skin? Doesn't sound right. The angels are ministering spirits. They're spirits. They wouldn't have flesh, cartilage, and skin. This is different, right? And it reads in the last part of verse 6 and 37 Ezekiel, and you shall live, and you shall know that I am Jehovah. Well, that sounds a lot like Jeremiah 31, where it says, they shall all know me from the least to the greatest. Or Ezekiel 39, at the end of the great day of the Lord, they shall all know me. Doesn't it? And you shall know that I am Jehovah. Okay, verse 7. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. So the bones, now this is a spiritual depiction. I don't think it's a literalization. But what it's showing us is the bones are laying there, and then he prophesies, because the Lord never does anything unless he speaks it first to his prophets. But that could be thousands of years before it happens. No problem there. So then the bones come together and they get cartilage, flesh, skin, and the breath in them. And what you're reading about is nothing short of a resurrection from the dead. But we got to try to focus on this better. When does this happen? It's not after the last day when the rapture is, when the dead come down and all that. It's not that. And I'm going to show you why. So this is interesting. Let's see. I'm not changing my position on this. I'm enhancing it, giving you more reasons to understand it. Okay? That should be pretty clear. And when I beheld, because I was shown this by the Lord today, that's what he told me to cover. I don't know that much Bible, but he shows me a lot of stuff, the Lord does. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. So they just had a body. And then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus saith Jehovah. It could be to the spirit, but in this case I think it's the wind as in breath, as in air. Well, let's read it. Come from the four winds. Well, there's no four Holy Spirits, so it's the winds. O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So it's sort of like artificial respiration when they drown and the lifeguard starts breathing into them, but it's not using a human, but the breath is going in them and it's going to bring them up to life. Got it? That's what that is. You understand? Like artificial respiration, but it's not. It's the Lord doing it with the wind, the breath going in them, so air's in the lung and they could start functioning. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army. Now, an exceeding great army. Let's interpret the words to make sure. The word for exceeding is English, but there's two words. Miod. Yeah, that means a lot. We use that in modern Hebrew. It means a lot, or many, or much, or something like that, right? The next is 3966. It's a repeat. Let me go into the Hebrew here. That's verse 10. I want to look at the Hebrew, because it's showing that it's the same word twice. I want to make sure it's that in the Hebrew. It is. Miod, miod. It is. That means it's huge, okay? That's just not a lot. It's like, you'd say like a lot in spades, or a super a lot, or something like that. Okay? So it's not just a lot, it's a big emphasis of a lot. So I prophesied as they commanded, and the breath came unto them, and they lived and stood upon their feet, and exceeding miod, miod, and then it says the word great, gadol, and then it has the word chayil. A great force. It could mean a great army or something like that. Let me go into the Hebrew again and take a look at these words, because I'm not even sure they appear in the Hebrew. Let me look. Gadol is there. uses the word foot. So it's saying live towards the end. Live, stand. No, wait, I got confused here. Let me get live, stand. It could mean upon. Oh, live, stand on your foot. On your feet. Stand on your feet is what we would say in English. I got it now. And then it would say army. I think it would mean army. Great. Meod, meod. Okay, guys, this is a very large amount of people. Okay, you're not talking about 1,000 or, 10,000 or something. This is a big thing. All right, so when they say an exceeding great army, it's their way of putting it in English. It's pretty much getting the point across. So when Yeshua rose from the dead and the graves opened and they went around and showed themselves to people, was it an exceeding great army? No. Nobody would say that it was. No. Nothing like that. Then he said unto me, son, so it's not that. Okay, don't let him sell you on that. Then he said unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, now that could mean the 12 tribes or the 10 tribes. The way it's phrased, the whole house of Israel. If it said the house of Israel, I would say it's the 10 tribes. When it says the whole house of Israel, I would say it's the 12 tribes. Kol is the word. It means all. It says all house of Israel. That doesn't mean whole. They take liberties, Behold, they say our bones are dried and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, behold, O my people, so he's talking about Israel, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Does that sound like he's bringing them into New Jerusalem? No. He's bringing them into the land of Israel. New Jerusalem's basically like a Jerusalem, but it's huge. But no, this is the land of Israel. This is not New Jerusalem. There's no see-through gold streets in the land of Israel. You got it? And you shall know that I am Jehovah when I have opened your graves. Now we're back to you shall know I am Jehovah. That I am Jehovah. So they shall all know me from the least to the greatest. It's fitting in there, isn't it? Open your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves, and shall put my spirit in you. Now that's where he puts the spirit in them. And you shall live. And I shall place you in your own land. Now that in your own land is not New Jerusalem either. It's Israel. Getting it? It's not heaven. It's Israel. Then shall you know that I am Jehovah. After he puts them in Israel. See, they shall all know me from the least to the greatest. It's starting to have a good fit, doesn't it? That I, the Lord, have spoken it and performed it, saith Jehovah. Now, people like to break this up, and they think when we're going into Ezekiel 37:15, it's a different subject. It's really not. It's a continuum. It's continuing. But it's not focusing on dry bones now, but it's related. Let's go through it. The word of Jehovah came again unto me, saying, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel. So Judah is the two tribes, Judah and Israel. The children of Israel, his companions, is the 10 tribes. Then take another stick and write upon it for for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companions. Okay, no, I'm sorry. What he's talking about here is slightly different. It's Judah and Levi is Judah, but Benjamin and some of the other tribes in quite small amounts are scattered in with Judah. That's what he means when he says his companions. Then he says, take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim. Now that's the 10 tribes, the old Israel when they were divided. And for all the house of Israel, his companions. So there's perhaps some from Judah and Levi mixed in over there. Okay. And join them one to another. So all the 12 tribes are being united together in one nation called Israel. I'll keep reading. And join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. No more 2 nations, 1 nation. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, Wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these? Say unto them, Thus saith Adonai Jehovah, Behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, 10 tribes, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah. The 10 and the 2 get together, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. No longer 2 nations. This is second Exodus type stuff. I'm going to keep reading. Right after the second Exodus. And the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thy hand before their eyes. Thou writest, okay. And say unto them, Thus saith Adonai Jehovah, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. That's the same land the dry bones are going to. That's your second Exodus. And it appears the dry bones come in the second Exodus too, as well. And I will make them one nation in the land of Israel, upon the mountain of Israel. And one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more 2 nations, neither shall they be divided into 2 kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols. Nor with detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people and I will be their God. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. Well, talking now pre-millennium, the one shepherd will be the anointed prince that's in the temple from the line of David. Down the road, when New Jerusalem comes and Yeshua returns to earth, then he would be the shepherd. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt. And that's not New Jerusalem, that's Israel. And they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever. It looks like there's some reproduction going on. And my servant David shall be the prince, their prince forever. So that's who the anointed prince is. From the line of David, not literal David. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant. And Yeshua was the peace offering, the lamb. So that's your tie-in. It will be an everlasting covenant with them. And I will place them and multiply them, so they're reproducing, and will set my sanctuary, the temple, in the midst of them forevermore. Well, the word for sanctuary actually is mikdash. Yeah, it's temple. My tabernacle, that's Mishkan, also shall be with them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And the heathen, see, they will be his people, and he will be their God. They shall all know me from the least to the greatest. See, when they come to life, they get that eternal life body, not a spiritual body. And they have the heart of flesh, and he writes the word in their heart. That's what I'm seeing here with this. And the heathen shall know that I, Jehovah, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary or my temple shall be in the midst of them forevermore. Because if a bunch of rabbis built the temple, it wouldn't impress the heathen. But if it came down from heaven and it looked like it did, then it would. And this is not New Jerusalem. Jerusalem has no temple. It's not it. So, I hope you're enjoying this little discourse. It's just shedding more light on this. And let me get in my notes again. Probably this happens shortly after Zechariah 12. It fits with Year of Redemption because they're going to get their land. They get out of the grave and they get their land. Oh, they could... It says when they're resurrected from the dead, they're equal to the angels, and that appears in Luke 20:38. It doesn't necessarily mean equal. It can mean like the angels, and the angels don't marry. But these people are coming to the land of Israel, and they're reproducing and multiplying. So it's a different thing. Okay? It's a different thing. I think it's just a hard one. Are they the 144,000 from the 12 tribes of Israel? We'll look at that, but it appears that they're more spirits. See, in the 144,000, they're all male. So that's going back to God's the father of his sons, and Yeshua and the two witnesses, and we don't read of him using a woman for reproduction. So interesting. Okay. If you're equal to the angels, I think you would have a spiritual body. And these people in the dry bones don't have a spiritual body. Flesh, skin, cartilage, come on, that's not a spiritual body. And they get their land, which the fathers had, which is not New Jerusalem. It's also not in heaven, because the fathers never had that in heaven. And it also talks of the second Exodus. So let's take a look at the 144,000 and see if we find anything that we could tie together. I don't know where that'll take us yet, but we can give it a shot, right? I gotta find it. Oh, whoa. Zechariah 9. I always like to bring this in. Maybe verse 10. No, verse 11. I missed by verse. As for thee also, by the blood of thy covenant, I have sent forth thy prisoners out of the pit, wherein is no water. That's the dry bones, okay? Turn you to the stronghold, you prisoners of hope. Why hope? Because when Yeshua was in the grave for those 3 days, he preached down there. He went down there and preached. I doubt he would have wasted his time preaching to those that are eternally doomed. He preached to the Israelites that are just there for a long punishment. Turn you to the stronghold, that's restored Israel, you prisoners of hope. Got it? Even today do I declare that I will render double unto thee. That's us getting the double portion of reward. When I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, that means the 12 tribes are going to fight together, and raised up thy sons, O Zion, against thy sons, O Greece, and made thee as the sword of a mighty man. And we read that in Zechariah 12 quite plainly. And the Lord shall be seen over them, and his arrows shall go forth as the lightning, and the Lord God shall blow the trumpet, and shall go with the whirlwind of the south. The Lord of hosts shall defend them, and they shall devour and subdue with slingstones, and they shall drink and make a noise as through wine, and they shall be filled like bowls. Okay, let me go to the 144,000 now. Let's start off by saying the 144,000 are not the Jehovah's Witnesses church. Okay. I believe it's 7. Wait a minute. Okay, let's go to Revelation 14:1. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood, Yeshua, on Mount Zion. Now that could be on earth. And with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their forehead. Now when it says that the Lord has the angels in Zechariah 9, preceding the great day of the Lord by a little bit, they put a mark in their forehead. The word for mark is often used to mean your name. It doesn't mean it's dots or an X. It could mean your name. So it says having the Father's name written in their foreheads. It could be, okay? And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, and many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder, and I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne and before the 4 beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. Now, wow. The glory of God of Israel that's in the temple, when you read Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11, he has the four beasts and he has the throne there. So this could be happening there. Now, let's see what that word lamb means. It means a lamb. We got a conflict here to resolve. And lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion. So if it's Mount Zion on earth, that means that it's Yeshua down on earth. Let's check the meanings of this Mount Zion. Or, you know, this is the place where the temple will be, Mount Zion in Jerusalem. I want to check something. Well, I think we're safer assuming this is earthly. So this is a perplexing situation. Trying to figure out why this is written this way. They're redeemed from the earth. Let's check the words for redeemed. We've got to try to find a reason for this. Why the lamb is down here. Now, the redeemed probably means redeemed from the earth, probably means they came from the dead, wouldn't you think? Redeemed from the earth would mean the grave. The earth word is G-E, earth, soil, ground. So it could mean redeemed from walking around on top of the earth, but it would lend itself more. It would just say the redeemed. If redeemed from the earth means from the grave in my book. That's how I would look at it. It's a likely meaning. No man could learn the song they were singing. So the non-redeemed wouldn't know the song. It's challenging, isn't it? I still don't have a good answer for that. Pray that we get a good answer. Why the Lamb is on Mount Zion. Okay. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. Okay, this is getting thick. Whoa. First fruits redeemed from the earth.
You need me?
Me?
Yeah.
No, unless you want to. Do you feel like explaining why you think we're in Shmita year now, or you're busy?
Well, what's that got to do with the first fruits of the earth and from those who slept? I'm working on that right now.
Well, it doesn't, but it's something that I think we'd all like to hear if you want to do it. I mean, like 3 or 4 minutes worth or something. You don't have to.
Well, what is it? I'm a little baffled. You're wanting me to tell you what I told you yesterday?
No, I want you to explain why you think we're in a Shemitah year now. That's all.
Why I think we're in a Shmita year. Well, first of all, it's because scripture.
Wait, I'm going to interrupt this because Rivka told me yesterday she believes we're in a Shemitah year now.
We're at the very end of it.
Yeah, I would agree. The year would roll at late February or early March, right?
Yeah, whenever
Whatever the moon
is ready.
shows. Yeah, okay.
The reason I think we're in a Shmita year is because we were promised that in the 6th year he would give us enough for 3 years. Why 3 years? Because we plant grains in the 7th month. We plant them in conjunction with when the rains return to the earth, because he said also that we wouldn't water like we did in Egypt when we had to carry water to the garden as we would carry water to herbs. But he said this is the land that drinks the rain from heaven, and the rivers flow from the mountains and the valleys, and God's going to water it because his eyes are on this land from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So he promised us in the 6th year he would give us 3 years, because in the 7th year we couldn't plant. And now this is the 7th year, and you can't, I'm sorry, in the 6th year you did plant. In the 7th year you could not plant, because now it's the 7th month of the 7th year, so you have nothing for the 8th year. So you can't plant again until the 8th year in the 7th month, which means that you're not eating the work of your hands, what you've planted, until the 9th year. So the 6th year was a promise of triple portion. And year before last, we had more barley and wheat, natural wheat, on the earth than I've ever seen before. And what's interesting is the way that God carves out the way. Because Judah, Israel, current Israel, is a year ahead on their Shmita schedule, every place that would have grown wheat grew barley. And those that were still growing wheat, whether they were doing it because they didn't observe Shmita or because it had been sold to an Arab, even had wild barley standing so tall in the field that you couldn't tell it was domestic wheat. So if I look at the year and say, did we have a triple portion? Yes, in all of the 7 species. It was a bumper year for the grapes. It was a bumper year for the dates. It was a bumper year for the figs. It was a bumper year for everything.
How about the pumpkins? Just kidding.
Pumpkins aren't on the list of
I know.
7 species. And this year, things have grown in the 7th year, which is the Shmita. But God doesn't owe us anything from the land because it's a Sabbath rest. And if it's not hanging on our tree in the property, if you go get fruits and vegetables outside of the property, which we're not harvesting, we're not storing, we're eating from it, that's allowed.
Wait, you mean you could pull it off the tree, or if it's on the floor under the tree, you could pick it up and eat it?
Sure, but you just don't store it as a harvest. A harvest means something you store for a time when that thing is not growing.
Like a silo or something
Like
that.
grains to make flour after the harvest, okay?
Uh-huh.
So if we get it and it's not grown on the property, if it's not dry and pithy, it's too wet and tasteless, right?
Yeah.
If you get it and it's on the property, which has been observing the Shmita, and I believe the correct Shmita, and you take it from the tree, it's luscious, it's sweet, it's pretty much perfect. So that's the reason that I believe that we're at the end of the 7th month, and the new year, 7th year, and the new year will roll into an 8th year. And we'll still be eating from the property. I'll start cleaning it up, and I'll start, doing the annual cycle of things with that should happen within that year. But we won't be putting any grains like I plant the black wheat. That won't go in the earth until the 7th month because it's too late to put it in the earth now. It has to be there before the rains begin. So that's why I think we're in the Shmita now.
Great. Thank you. Good. All right. I just thought I would bring that out to you. And remember that Shmitas go in 7s. And the last of the Shmita, the 49th year, the next year is your Jubilee, the 50th year. Silver platter. Okay. Back to the mystery of the 144,000. It's not a mystery. But it sounds good when I say that. I think she's right about the Shmita this year, by the way. Okay. Whereas the Shmita would precede the Jubilee. All right, let me see where we were. Where was we? Revelation 14. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. The virgins would mean their new body. That's how I'm looking at that. They never had intercourse with a female. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men. Now, redeemed from among men would mean they didn't come out of the grave. Right? I would think. Because those in the grave are not among men. Being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. So the first fruits of God and the Lamb together. Wow. Let's go back and look at this. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb. Let's break this down hard. These are they which were not defiled. Let's check all the words here because you never trust them. to defile, stain. Let's see what Strong says. Defile, soil. It would mean that they are virgins. Let's take a look at this. An unmarried daughter. Whoa, okay, it's focusing now. Okay. These are they which were not defiled with women. That would mean men. For they are virgins. That's maidens, females. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men. The word for men is really human beings. So it's both sexes. Being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. So this makes a lot more sense now when you realize they are virgins. Defiled, these were not defiled with women would mean they didn't do rape, adultery, fornication. They wouldn't be defiled if they had relations with their wife. There's no reason I can understand that unless they did it during the menstrual cycle, which it could apply to, because that would defile them, but also outside of marriage would. And then it says, for they are virgins, which could mean maidens, women. Let's check this harder. The Greek is parthenos. Chaste. It could mean they weren't females. Unmarried virgin, I think, is... Let's see if it's the Alma word in the Hebrew. Let me think. Says B'nai Ha'adam. Take a look at something here. The word for virgin is betula. I didn't see that in the text. Let me look there again. Sorry to do this when you're online, but it's fascinating. We keep hitting a stumbling block on this. I'm not getting enough understanding. All right, let's just stay with English for now. I don't want to spend a lot of time tracking words down. Okay. So we're in Revelation 14. They were redeemed from among men would have to mean they went to eternal life from life. I think being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb, that would be first fruits of the living to eternal life. And in there, because the first fruits came when Yeshua was resurrected from the grave. They came out from the grave. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. Well, there's a throne in the temple with the glory of God of Israel, who's an angel that the Lord put his name in. So that makes sense. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel, to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation, and kindred, and tongue, and people. Now this could be Apostle John as one of the two witnesses, because when it says angels, the word is angelos, which means one sent, a messenger, or an angel. Got it? Of course, the church world is not aware of this. And who are these that fly to their windows like a dove in Isaiah 60? Another messenger fly in the midst of heaven. That's where the birds go. Having the everlasting gospel. And John was told he has to preach the gospel, yet to many nations and things like that. So it sure sounds like Apostle John here. Angels don't normally go around preaching the gospel. We don't have an example of that anywhere. Do we? No, we don't. Saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of water. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen. So this happens in the time period relating to America. Getting good, isn't it? That great city, that's Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, and the Columbia is the Statue of Liberty graven image. That's the Columbia Motion Pictures graven image, same garbage, probably the same thing on the top of the Capitol building. Is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark. Now, it could be the angel with the gospel. So remember, an angel gave the book to John, the seven thunders. It would be bitter, sweet, and then bitter in his tummy. But I think it's starting to sound like John, but I'm not sure. Let me go back and look at that again. Saying with a loud voice, fear God. Find them as having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them. No, they don't. The angels don't preach. That doesn't sound right. There followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in the forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture unto the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment is sent up forever and ever, and they have no rest, day nor night, who worship the beast and the image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. There are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Yeshua. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, right, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth, yea, saith the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. That means their rewards will come. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap the harvest of the earth. The harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another angel came out of the temple, which is in heaven. Now the temples on earth are a likeness of the temple in heaven. He also having a sharp sickle, and another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. That's your Revelation 19. Yeshua coming with the white garment, with the bloody spots, the red spots, treading the winepress. And the angel thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trodden without the city, and blood came out of the winepress even unto the horse bridle by the space of 1,000 600 furlongs. Wow. Okay. So we need some clarifications. Why is the Lamb on Mount Zion? That, we got to pray for that. They follow the Lamb. Let's check that word. It appears to be a lamb, a young lamb. Okay, we're going to have to call that a lamb. Whithersoever, let's check these words. Where it's not where he goeth, it's where he leads. That helps. To lead. So what it's really saying is these are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he leads. See, when they said goeth, they're confusing you to make you think that this is taking place in the third heaven with Father God Jehovah. Wherever the Lamb leads, we do that now, wherever he leads us. Okay? So they twisted it. These were redeemed from among men, being first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. Now, we still haven't solved all the mystery, but it's coming into focus. And then we see lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion. The word for lamb is lamb. Stood is, oh, come on. Get this back. Could have different meanings, but not by much. Stood on, let's check that word. And it appears like it stood upon the mount. Let's read that word. Mount, yeah. Sign. Yeah, it's inescapable here. There is no Mount Zion now. That's where the next temple goes. Some armies many, many centuries ago dismantled it. So it'll need to come back. Now, it says a lamb. Having the Father's name written in their foreheads. It's a hard one, huh? A lamb stood on Mount Zion with the 144,000 having his father's name in the forehead. And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, and the voice of great thunder, harpers. They sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. These are they which were not defiled with women. They are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goes. I think they're not, when it says they are virgins, I think it means the men are virgins. Not that they're maidens, because it's referencing previous that were not defiled with women. They, meaning the same ones, are virgins. So the young women doesn't make sense. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. That means whithersoever he leadeth. Redeemed from among men, being first fruits. Okay, so this all makes sense, except I can't understand why Yeshua is on Mount Zion. I don't have matching scripture for this, so I'm stuck. What can I tell you? I'm stuck. Pray about it and we'll see what the answer is. We'll just have to see what the answer is. It says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit down on my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool, right? Okay. But he appears in the clouds, seated on the right hand of power, and this would be at the, I would say, probably the close of Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 39. But it's not Zechariah 12:10 at any rate, let's put it that way. So, but you see there, he's still seated at the right hand of God the Father. So, why did he leave? He doesn't really leave until you get to Revelation 19. So could this be Revelation 19? It could be. That would be the only real explanation. That's probably the best explanation, is that this takes place in Revelation 19. And I looked, and while the Lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his name written in their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven as a voice. They sung a new song, no one could learn it but them. They were redeemed from the earth. These are they which were not defiled with women. And that could mean they had their new body and they weren't defiled with women. So they just stayed virgins, these men. These are they which follow, they're led by the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. Then these were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits. Okay, so this just happens later on. And then it switches topics in Revelation 14:6. It says, "And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel." Why would he be on Mount Zion? Because that's where the temple of New Jerusalem would be coming down from there. And I believe it would connect with a bridge or walkway or something to get from Mount Zion up into there. It won't sit on the earth because it's 1,500 by 1,500 miles, 1,500 miles high. It would probably crush everything it sat on. And if it didn't, it would be weird, you know. You'd have this thing over on your roof of your house. You wouldn't get any sunlight, wind, rain. It makes no sense. So it could be all the way up there. I don't know how high the new Mount Zion would be, but it's going to be the highest mountain there is. So it could be, you got me, the highest mountain then could be 10,000 feet. It could be 5,000 feet. It could be 42,000 feet. I don't know. To preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people. Okay, so this is a different topic, so it could be out of sequence. And then it goes and talks about the beast and the false prophet, which, well, before we get to that, it goes into Babylon is fallen. And then another angel comes down and talks about worshiping the beast. So it's a big, long chronology here. I think it's just the only explanation is it starts kind of backwards, chronologically speaking, and that's the return of Yeshua. And when it says follow him and lead, it might be more literal than just lead. It might be more like a follow and lead. So we see him there, and then we follow him from Mount Zion. When New Jerusalem comes down, maybe it'll just touch Mount Zion and you just walk in. It may, because it's maybe a spiritual city or something like that. It's probably not spiritual, but it may be different. It may not have any weight. I don't know, you know. But then you could just walk in from there. That's why you're on Mount Zion, I think, because he's going to lead the people into New Jerusalem at this time. That seems to work. That's the best explanation I could come up with, and I think it's the correct one. But boy, this was hard. At least you got to see me work through a problem. You know, you got to kick against your own doctrines as you're creating it, trying to find a solution. You got to rip your own ideas down until you get one you can't rip down. And that's what I just did. And you got to pray. And that knocked me out. Not really, but that was enough for today, I think. Let me get in and see if I have any questions. So it's good that I do some of this stuff in front of you so you see how I do it. A schmuck teacher just impresses everybody with how much they know. A good teacher shows the people how to arrive at these conclusions. You got to take pieces from all the different prophets, or as many as you can find, and put them together to get the whole picture. Oh, there's nobody recording it. It's this new YouTube app that when you move, it follows you. It's retarded. I can't disconnect it. I'm stuck with it. I could get it to distance back and shrink it. Like I'll have to go to work on that. But that's about the best I can do. I know it pans. I'm sorry. I'm a one-man show. I don't have a recording studio. I don't have a staff. Everything is me. So I usually start about 5, 6 in the morning, and then I finish the broadcast usually 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's usually knocks me out for the day. The Lord doesn't usually have me do, the vast majority of the time, He doesn't have me do other Bible studies during the day. It's just I gotta rest. So you're not as fresh and alert as you were when you started. It's I'm old, I'm like as old as Israel, so I have to take it easy, It really gets you from here to here, is where you get tired, but that drags your body down too, believe me. So, I'll have lunch, and I'll go sit outside if it's not raining, and I'll update the Telegram, and, I'll try to distract myself and find something to do, and, and then go in and feed the dogs and lay around, take a shower. And then I do a little update in the evening, and usually around 10 minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes in there somewhere, depending on what's going on, and that's it. Then I usually try to find something mindless I could watch on the internet, YouTube or I don't know, whatever I'm looking at, and then I usually fall asleep with the iPad on, and then I wake up in the middle of the night and go back to bed proper, and, pray I keep getting a lot of sleep. I've been doing good. I've been getting 7 or more hours of sleep, which is nice. So, I'm Moshe, my wife's Rivka, and thank you for the offerings, and thank you for the iPad, and please pray for our health, and pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole, and pray for our finances, and that we don't have to go in the bomb shelter from attacks or anything like that, and we don't suffer attacks. And pray for better videos, that's important, and pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. And I got offering information in the chat and in the description box. And I kind of stuck on the technology. A couple of years ago, I tried to get, I got this MacBook Pro, and I tried to use that for the broadcasts, and it just became a literal nightmare. The keyboard, for my old man eyes, is horrible. It has Hebrew and English right next to each other, and it just puts me on tilt trying to find the keys, because the positions are all wrong from a regular keyboard. So it just drove me crazy, and YouTube makes no app for the MacBook Pro. So you have to do the broadcast through the Chrome browser, which it doesn't have this moving around stuff, but it's much harder for me to use. I tried years ago with some little cameras I bought, and they didn't work with the MacBook Pro. These don't work. Nothing works with MacBook Pro. There's so few of these things out there, nobody bothers really getting a good product for it because they sell so few of them. I expect they'll discontinue it. The iPad Pros do everything that the MacBook's going to do. It really does. And you can get them with up to 2 terabits of memory. Not that I need that. The one I just got, I think is 256 in the memory. I just using it for live stream. I'm not putting anything in there, and I have the cloud, so I don't need the memory. What am I going to do with the memory, The other one I had, that I use for my notes, it has 1 or 2 terabits of memory in there, and it makes it heavier, I believe, but I can put stuff in there. So to reduce the price, I just bought the 256, you know. So the MacBook Pro is a bad solution to an existing problem. That's the difficulty with that thing. It just isn't really any good, and I don't suggest anybody buy one. Nobody wants to waste their time making apps that work on it. It's worthless. And the other software is garbage too. Like I can't tell you how many programs I went through trying to get these broadcasts working. It was quite a few, and I couldn't get anything to work. Yeah. You have English? מדבר אנגלית? וואטסאפ, אני יש וואטסאפ. מי זה, שליח או מה? אוקיי, אני גרה בדרך השקט, כן? אוקיי, אין משברים בדרך השקט. אני בו לדרך השקט in the street, עכשיו, בסדר? You are Akshav, right? Okay. Okay, אני בו לרחוב דרך השקט עכשיו. בסדר? Okay, תודה. Okay, bye. Okay, bye. Okay, guys, I gotta go. I got a messenger coming. Doesn't know where I live. I gotta go out in the street and find the guy. So that's it. I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. Thanks.